Just gonna ask directly with Caleb if I could get that CV now because I've been waiting for it about 4 or 5 times.
This is disruptive behavior, and if you don't
But
stop, I'm going to ask you to be escorted.
How am I disrupting anything when the meeting hasn't started?
I've asked you to sit down.
I don't want to get hyper technical with you, but listen, I'm a lawyer. He's a lawyer. John, you're a lawyer, right? How have I interrupted a meeting that hasn't started? This is the man who befriended me at the coffee stand at the Liquor and Cannabis Board, so much so that I shook his hand and specifically told him, "You, Sir Vollentroff, are the only person at the board whom I trust." He then proceeded to attempt to have me arrested in the exercise of the rights guaranteed by Article 1, Section 5, and the LCB Public Comment period.
But Member Vollentroff?
Well, I was just going to say, I think given the fact that we've said we're not going to enforce this particular WAC, I want to hear public comment. I want to hear what the community has to say. I think we owe that not just to the LGBTQ community, but all community members to have opportunity to weigh in.
That happens regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
We will be public hearings and public comment period. I think the only, and
This is part of a much larger scheme, Your Honor, because now I've located his statement just 1 year ago in which he extolled the virtues and necessity of public comment, stating, "I want to hear public comment from the people. It's necessary. It benefits not only the GLBTQ community, but the community at large." All of these things were stated by him and actually seconded by Defendant Postman. Now, Your Honor, why would he do a 180? Why would Defendant Postman do a 180? It is only because the agency is late producing 170 licenses for largely black and brown would-be stakeholders, and they are going to continue to violate us in ways as noted in the Cushmart versus LCB litigation and in the declaration that concerned cannabis attorney Michael Reed noted in another case. It's right there before you. So they don't want the public seeing this and deriving more education about how the agency actually operates. So between these two attorneys, the disparate treatment and disparate impact against black and brown are clearly manifest to such a degree that this court does indeed have the authority to issue what is essentially an extraordinary writ. This case, Your Honor, embodies all the wrongs set forth by this agency that allowed whites a decade of public comment to hone the process to their financial benefit and protected GLBTQ rights as well, while once again subjugating black and brown to second and third class status. Your Honor, please reinstate public comment and monitor their activities for the next year at least, as noted in the recent case that I have cited in my motion.
What you're doing is absolutely inimical to our freedoms in this state, and I won't stand for it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna, you can live stream, of course, but it's kind of disruptive to have you walking around, so if you could just take it.
I wasn't aware that we started the meeting.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we started the meeting?
we haven't technically started.
Okay then. So, all right, don't get off me, man. All right, thank you. I was just going to ask directly with Caleb if I could get that CV now because I've been waiting for it about 4 or 5 times.
This is disruptive behavior, and if you don't
But
stop, I'm
how-
gonna ask you to be escorted.
How am I disrupting anything when the meeting hasn't
I've
started?
asked you to sit down.
I don't want to get hyper technical with you, but listen, I'm a lawyer. He's a lawyer. John, you're a lawyer, right? How have I interrupted a meeting that hasn't started? Don't mess with me, guys.
Okay, we are officially starting the meeting.
And I'm sitting down, am I not?
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm in my place with a bright, shiny face. I was on my way out the door and you stopped to harass me. This is the same way that Dave Postman harassed me a couple years ago when I was out at Martha's. And I said, I want to finish my talk. I want to finish the rest of my time. And he said, no, you're not.
you done?
No, I'm going to take my full time.
No, you won't. Okay, we're done.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
really? Is that how it's going to be?
No, we've told you this before, Christopher. This isn't, you talk about being a journalist. This is not a press conference.
No,
If you have
explain it to
questions
you.
for us,
Explain
you
it to
can
you.
ask them.
Let
You
me
get 4
explain it
minutes
to
to
you.
talk. You
I'm
don't get
allowed
4
to
minutes
have a
to
dramatic
sit
pause.
online.
It's called a dramatic pause. I will address you how I care to address you, as long as I don't swear at you, okay, or threaten you. I am allowed to have dramatic pause as a component of my presentation to you. Period. You know that. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, Mr. Postman. That attitude from you is going to get you sued.
My videos documenting the repulsive activity at the LCB are a principal reason why this board now wants to curb public comment, and there are no two ways about it. They champion the opportunity now to send written public comments in, but that opportunity has been manifest the whole time. Ab initio. It's a fact, people. Don't be fooled by their bullshit. Look at the rampant, hateful misconduct of former Chair David Postman and current Chair Jim Vollendroff as I help give public vent to the concerns of honest, hardworking black and brown people that they have conspired against from day one. And Attorney Holmes, don't you let me catch wind of you joining suit and following up with these people in that manner, because I will call you out in a city minute, along with Attorney Patel, who's part of all of this problem too. I'm 60 years old now, and I'm not gonna temper anything.
I'm just gonna remind you, like Malcolm said, okay? You got the fox over here, and by the way they hold their mouth, you might be fooled, okay? Then you got the wolf over here. Chair Vollendroff, you proved to be the fox. And I just can't really believe that you did that, but you did. So we'll see you in court. Thank you.
I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf.
I want to hear public comment. I want to hear what the community has to say. I think we owe that.
May it please the board, I'm here to talk about what Malcolm X noted as the myth of the white liberal. We're out here in the PNW. Things are allegedly progressive for black and brown out here, when really it's not true whatsoever. You know, except for we're not comparing the South to the North, like Malcolm did. We're comparing the Republicans to the Democrats, okay? This is basically a Doge move, is what you're doing. Under the name of efficiency, you're constricting our freedoms and the ability to address the board effectively. That's exactly what's going on here. And you have such a contempt for me as an educated attorney addressing you about what's going on, that not only has David Postman cut me off in my mid-sentence and told me I couldn't finish my time, you actually made up a myth that I was disrupting a meeting that hadn't started, and you threatened to have me escorted out, okay? I'm a 60-year-old black man in April, no criminal record, you tried to give me one. That's how much you despise hearing the truth from people like me coming out to give it to you. Mary Hall Rayford versus Monique Owens out of Eastern District of Michigan, and another one, Rebecca Massey versus City of Surprise in Arizona. Those are two great cases where plaintiffs prevailed when the government tried to shut them down from speaking, you know? And this is stuff I've litigated before in my own career, both as a journalist and as an attorney, and you can't do the things you're doing. And I think in the one of the hearings, in the Massey case, they said, do you want to be escorted out of here, or are you going to stop talking? She stood firm on her constitutional rights and demanded the opportunity to finish her remarks. She never got a chance. Instead, Mayor Hall instructed a surprise police officer, the defendant, to detain her and eject her from the room. That sound familiar? Of course it sounds familiar. It's because it's what you did to me. You know, assisted by Attorney Patel, who leaned into you to tell you to start the meeting right away so you could try to get some dirt on me. The whole thing you were doing, you knew you had exposure for doing me the way you've been doing me.
We have 30 seconds.
So that's what you attempted to do, was to set me up so that you could have some dirt on me when I sued you to try to blunt the impact, okay? I was a government lawyer, I know how you operate, all right? So I'm gonna come down, my black ass be right here.
And just so you guys know, that the dude in the blue, his name is Mike Sherman. He's a grower. He's been fighting for social equity on the real deal. We've had our backs and forth because he sees it one way, I see it the other, but he has been in the fight with us.
Yep.
So I don't knock him. I'm not saying every white person is a racist. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely not, but the ones that sit on the board are.
Yeah, exactly.
May it please the board, I'm here to talk about what Malcolm X noted as the myth of the white liberal. We're out here in the PNW. Things are allegedly progressive for black and brown out here, when really it's not true whatsoever. You know, except for we're not comparing the South to the North, like Malcolm did. we're comparing the Republicans to the Democrats, okay? This is basically a Doge move, is what you're doing. Under the name of efficiency, you're constricting our freedoms and the ability to address the board effectively. That's exactly what's going on here. And you have such a contempt for me as an educated attorney addressing you about what's going on, that not only has David Postman cut me off in my mid-sentence and told me I couldn't finish my time, you actually made up a myth that I was disrupting a meeting that hadn't started, and you threatened to have me escorted out, okay? I'm a 60-year-old black man in April, no criminal record, you tried to give me one. That's how much you despise hearing the truth from people like me coming out to give it to you.
And lasting social stigmatization due to this. The very plant that was criminalized in the 20th century, leading to the destruction of our countless black and brown families, is now being legalized across the country, and yet Washington State profits from the legal marijuana sales, as African Americans and black and brown communities are still historically targeted and excluded from this. Studies show that black and brown entrepreneurs are significantly underrepresented in the legal marijuana industry, even though black and brown community members were among the earliest users and sellers of the industry. They were, however, punished more harshly for doing so.
I want to hear public comment. I want to hear what the community has to say. I think we owe that not just to the LGBTQ community, but all community members to have opportunity to weigh in.